Hey everyone, how you doing? It's good to be back on the channel. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Track and field tonight, and we want to talk about some important events that's popping up around the world and stuff that's happening these past few days. Kind of creating some big questions ahead of Tokyo. I want to go through a few performances that stood out. Ed Murphy Classic, Diamond League in Monaco, obviously. And today we had some track and field there in Switzerland as well. Nothing too spectacular there, but if you want to talk about that as well, I'm more than happy to delve into that and chop it up with you. You put your comments in, we get them on the screen, we hash out what's going on. It's interesting because we've now hit a part of the season where every race, every split, every start, everything you can think about counts. And that's because we're on that kind of a point towards the World Championships. What's interesting about that too is US National Championships coming up at the end of this month. A bunch of championships will also be there. And athletes are fine-tuning. And some athletes are really peaking right now. You can see a level of peak coming on. Others are quietly showing up. The dodging has to be over with, in the sense that if you were nursing some injuries, now is the time to start getting back and start pushing through. And hopefully you will showcase some stuff. But the athlete I want to start with, and I think in many ways I may owe him some apologies, or the handling of him, is Quincy Wilson, right? So listen, I have to be 100% honest with you guys. The 44:10 that he delivered a few days ago, I didn't see it coming. I really didn't see it. And in many ways, maybe we should have, maybe I should have. I don't know about you. You let me know in the comments. But Wilson, he destroyed a field that had some really important athletes there, senior guys. Bryce Deadman was there. He ran across them. The Olympic champion from many years ago, Stephen Gardner, was there as well. Unfortunately for him, he didn't finish and he didn't look good. And I'm not quite sure what's happening with Steven. We wish him the very best. He's been struggling with injuries for the last how many years. But back to Wilson, 44:10, comfortably in the end, pulling away from Deadman, who ran a 44:39. The rest wasn't quite quick. Delano Kennedy from Jamaica doing a 45 flat. There's not much we can talk about for the rest of the race there. But the key thing here, and the thing that I want to emphasize, and I've been thinking about, is we probably should have read the signs. Earlier this year, Wilson was running a lot. We saw him at Penn Relays, we saw him through the high school championships, and he got beat a few times by some other athletes. And, like many, I was kind of doubting whether or not he was at a point where we could safely say, did he hit a peak? Will he transition to run much faster times? And the truth is, the kid was gearing up for this part of the season, right? It's a strategic build-up, I think. And if you listen to his coach, I think they were working on what's the possibility of landing a top 3 spot at the US National Championships and then getting into something special in Tokyo. And you have to think, if you can run 44:10 in July, US Championships coming up in a few weeks, this is going to put him in an interesting position there. We'll have to see what the likes of a Quincy Hall might do. But he has gone 44:2 now. He's trending down. Earlier this season, Jacor Patterson from the United States did a sub 44. They're running a 43:98. There's the likes of Chris Robinson, and you just never know what will happen at the US Championships. Usually the guys show up and it's a big performance there from a bunch of people. But at this point in time, it's hard not to see Wilson getting on the podium, right? If he's no longer afraid of those guys. I don't know if he was ever afraid. The kid was running in a way blindly. He was running in a way free. Now there's a wealth of expectation that might be popping up on him. And I don't really know if if that will impact him in any way. I don't think so. I think he's level-headed. He's been managing a lot of intense pressure on him, fanfare, people wanting to see him, and we have to like that for him. But at 44.10, the big question is, will he run sub 44? Can he do that by the time we get to the U.S. National Championships and potentially, at the World Championships? And that's something to look forward to, I would say. I mean, you let me know. Thanks everybody for jumping on as usual. Hopefully you guys are doing well, wherever you are. Track and field night tonight. We can talk about anything else you want, anything you want to touch on. I'm happy to do it. But the kid didn't break form. Just to finish the Wilson point, he didn't break form. He looked strong. He ran a really comfortable backstretch, but on the stretch, he really looked good. And at 17 years of age now, I believe, he's one of the favorites, you have to think, going into the U.S. National Championships. And that's big performance there. I'd like to see it. I kind of written him off a little bit. I didn't write him off in the sense that I don't think he would have a successful career or anything like that. But I didn't think that, he would be running this fast. And when you look at the kind of all-time list there, he's right up there. This is a world youth record in a sense for the age group. And I don't know if he can, ever get to that world record there. But it's possible, I think who's ahead of him? Maybe Watts, I think, or so. But it's, it's big running for Quincy Wilson, and I think the kid is going to be great. I hold my hand up. I was wrong about it. When I saw all that stuff, and the reason why I said it, I thought it was running out of steam earlier, but it wasn't the case. I think it was more for them trying to set him up to do something really special this season. And boy, did he look good, and U18 world best. I think he's only going to go faster, and we'll wait to see that. Right? Cool. All right. Number of other things going on. I want to touch base on some other events and other things that I saw and that I think is worthy of talking about. I want to talk about Julian Alfred, right? So right now, if we were to evaluate where the women's 100 meter is at the moment, it's Alfred and it's going to be Melissa Jefferson Wooden, right? That's where everything is going right now. We have to believe that the athletes are showing signs of this, and there's not much that we can say otherwise. A couple weeks ago, we saw Nike Prefontaine, and I was adamant that Julian would go there and she would pretty much win. I didn't expect her to lose against Melissa, even though she was having a great season. And no disrespect to her, because I think her performances this year at the Grand Slam and so on had, been stellar performances. And I was hoping to see if she would be, if she could continue this, especially when she came up against Alfred. And not only did she win, but she won comfortably. She got out of the blocks a little bit quicker than Julian, and Julian just couldn't get to her. And so we go now, and you get to Monaco, and you say to yourself, she's going to come back with a bang. That's Alfred. That is. She's not going to allow a situation where she doesn't come back and showcase the world that she's in good nick, because she really is in good nick. And what she displayed there against those women was nothing more than class, showcasing that she's ready. I always thought she's ready, and I'm willing to go on an edge, even though it's July 15th. that she has to be the favorite still for me to win the World Championships, all things being equal. But she ran that 10.79 into a 1.4 headwind. And it begs the question, and I've seen some people doing the rounds, I've been doing some chit chatting with others because people get excited about this. And the question is, how fast can Alfred go, right? Can she run something super spectacular this season? Are we looking at an athlete that can go below 10.6? These are the things that people been mentioning. And I don't know where to think about it. I definitely know she's a 10.6 athlete right now. I mean, it's there's no question about that. Those times that she's been running, this 10.79 here into that kind of win would give her something really, really super fast. And so is she going to edge up to those kind of elite category, right? She's now what? Officially on the all-time list, number 8 there with her 10.72 from last year in the Stade de France. But we're getting to a point where there's no doubt she's going to run 10.6 for sure. And she's probably going to run it comfortable. And it's just a question of whether the conditions are there for her to run a very low 10.6 and quite possibly become the only woman outside of Elaine Thompson-Herah and Florence Griffith-Joyner to go below that 10.6 barrier, right? So Fraser-Price has the 10.60 flat. And so that's the big question for me. Can Julian Alfred do this? I don't know. I think it's possible. I mean, I didn't expect that in this period that we would find someone that quickly to get to those type of times. But it's possible. I definitely think it's possible, if I'm being honest with you. Elaine did it comfortably some years ago in Tokyo. It's now feeling like a long time ago, 2021. Fraser-Price had that stellar season that year too, running a bunch of 10.6 to running also that 10.60, and she had a bunch of 10.6 in the mix when you think about all the times that she cracked up. But no one has been quite low, right? In terms of getting close to those times. And Alfred, with her kind of a power position, how she runs, it looks really good. And you have to think about what she's been doing this season, the kind of progression that she's been making. The 2021-8 over the 200 meters, I expect her to even run even quicker there. And this is a much better athlete than the one that we saw last year. And so I think it comes down to a matter of execution. Personally, I don't think the time should matter. I don't think she should be concerned about that. I think the most important thing is to get to the World Championships healthy and do your best to capture that World Championship title. So then you'd hold the Olympic title, then the World Championship title. And that would put her in kind of an interesting kind of position to dominate for a few years, right? That's how she would be thinking. Obviously, other people will have different ways to think about this, and whether or not that is something that manifests itself, we'll have to wait and see. But I think Julian Alfred is going to be the athlete for this. I think she's going to run super fast. 10.5, I don't know yet. I think she will definitely run 10.6 this season. Because she's already kind of doing it just without the conditions so far. It's going to happen as long as the conditions are there. How fast she can go, I don't know. Very young. The cycle is there for her to dominate. It's going on, Edwin. Edwin in the house. He says Alfred is 24 and has not run 10.60 at Shakara, run 10.65 at 23. So she's a bit behind. Yeah, well, I guess you could think about it that way. I mean, I think last year Julian probably could have run 10.6. It was a rainy night too in Paris. Condition, those are in the legs. I think it's in the legs for sure. And I don't know if I don't think she's a bit how far behind that we think. You know, Shakara is running some fantastic times earlier and so on. And sometimes you run the times later too, right? Like look at a lot of Fraser Price's times came, those 10-6 times came much later. So it just depends on what's required. You know, in a way, I'm hovering around the argument around the time. The time for me is not important. I think she can run the time that will be needed to run to win the championships. That's what she has to go for. I think that's important. So Paul, let us see. I'll get to you in a second too. Uh I think she can run 10-6. I think you know you give that 10.79 with you turn that around to a 1.4 as opposed to into the headwind that she ran in Monaco, and that's 10-6 all day, trending down possibly, you know, give and take. You know, some people might think it's even quicker. You give her all the legal win, and there's something else there. But she's a better athlete than the athlete we saw last year. Stronger. She ran that great 300 meters early in the season in Florida, I think. That time Jackson was in the race too. She, you know, she ran a few good 200 meters this season as well. And I think she's in good nick. You know, all the signs are there. She still has the fastest time in the world for 200 meters, the 21:88. Uh, Negligible win, point 0.2. And that was all the way back in what, June 10th. So over a month or so ago. She doesn't have a national championships to contend with. The way in which they can structure the season for her until they get to the world championships is important. I think a number of athletes here are gonna have to run hard. Jefferson has to run hard. She has to compete there, even though she's in great nick. But the U.S. Championships is coming up. TT Terry will be there. All these different athletes you might see. Shakar is in an advantageous position. Sears, look at what Sears started to look good again. It's good to see her. So it's going to be interesting, and the likes of an Alfred can kind of pick and choose the races. Yeah, and let's be honest, her life changed last year, being the Olympic champion and all that comes with that, the eyes on the sport, the extra endorsement, the love from St. Lucia. I don't think she's short of anything right now. It's just them powering through. Paulette says yes, she needs to rest. I don't know. I don't think she's overrunning. I think Coach Flo has it right. I think they pushed her. He wanted her to run a lot more than she was comfortable running before. You saw her doing some 400 running, some relay legs. The base is there, and the fact that she's running those 21s there, 21.8, I think she should try to go for the double, right? Last year didn't work out, obviously. Gabby Thomas there, but this is a bigger athlete than the one that we saw last year. Edwin against, I agree. Alfred looks more refined than last year. She's trending in the right way. For sure. Yeah. She is. Yeah, she's doing the right things, I would say. Looking good. I think it's gonna be super. We don't hand out medals in July, and we shouldn't, but it's hard for me not to to be giving her one of them. I was really early out on the season last year and adamant that she would have won the Olympic champion, the title. It just looked that way. It looked, even when he went back a few years back when she had those disappointments at the World Championships with that 0.999 false start there. And, now much better, professional athlete, nothing to worry about. I think should be golden. Definitely going to be big time athlete there. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we'll get to see Julian. I mean, I'll miss London Diamond League, as I mentioned on the last live. I'll be traveling a bit, but so I won't be able to come and do a watch along, but I'll be watching it hopefully wherever I am, and we'll get on to that. All right, I want to go back to something again. Let's go back to Monaco as well. And we didn't spend a lot of time unpacking this when we did the watch along, but it's the situation with Noah Lyles. So Lyles has been out. It was a late addition to the Hercules meet in Monaco, and he showed up. And when he came, I was like, when we saw him on the starting list, which came after everything was published initially, I was wondering a couple things in my mind. What kind of shape would he be in? And how would that look for him to go up against the Olympic champion, Letsile Tebogo, who would be coming off of what I think his second race since he had pulled out of from Doha, and Letsile was back, ran fairly decent time prior to that, and Lyles shows up, and not only did he show up, the dude won the race, and I didn't see it coming. To be honest with you, I didn't see it coming. The week before in Eugene, Tebogo runs 1976. At that point in time, up to last week, before the kid from Tennessee, that was the fastest time in the world. 1973 now is the fastest time in the world by McCollum there from University of Tennessee. So I thought this was going to be a walkthrough, for Letsile. You'd get a Lyles that's returning to competition, trying to get his legs ready, trying to get in a few races, right up to the world before you get to the World Championships, given that he has buys in the two sprint events. But he returned with some authority, and he beat Tebogo. And there's no excuses here, I would say, for Letsile, in the sense that unless he felt something, and he wasn't going to allow, let's see, Noah to win, right? They don't like each other. It's one of those things. And so it puts us in an interesting space that Lyles is fit, he's getting back. It's not a particularly super fast time, but it's something that I'm sure they'll be happy with. 1988. It's into a slight headwind. Not really slight. It was I think it was a minus 0.8. So decent enough headwind. It's going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. Initially, when the start of the season, I had Letsile just going to cruise through, but he picked up some injuries himself. We haven't seen Kung Fu Kenny for a little bit too. He also pulled out of a few meets because of injury. He had a super start to the season as well. But mad respect to Noah Lyles. He talks a lot, and this time he came back and he answered the questions. Not only did he answer it, he answered it well. He managed to go sub 20, and this is going to be the showdown, I would imagine, for the rest of the season. You expect Kenny to come back. I don't know if others will be in the mix. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if this kid McCollum can do something. He ran earlier this year as well, long collegiate season, but we'll have to see. Yeah, but shout out to Lyles for that. Got to give him credit. Chris, ouch, Windies. Yeah, good to see you, Chris. I don't want to talk about cricket tonight. I'll get to you in a second there, Nevada. Yeah, I really don't want to talk about cricket, Chris. Well, I'm gonna do a cricket thing afterwards. I've been trying not to go. I watch all the test matches. I watch actually almost every minute of it because I had time. And yeah, the only thing I can say is that the bowling was fantastic. What the batting display yesterday was absolutely atrocious. It's beyond belief, but we'll get to that. Naval said, "What is Lyle's fastest opener in 200?" Good. Off the top of my head, I don't know that. I'll have to check what is fastest. Yeah, I don't have my data right with me to check. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, what is his fastest time? Let's see if I can find it. But I don't. Yeah, that off the top of my head, I don't know. Uh, I think he's run like I think he's run 19.7s in the past to open up for sure. I think maybe 1972 might be his quickest, but I'd have to we'd have to check the World Athletics thing to see his progress his times off the. But I think he did open up in the past, like in the 19.7s before, and that's some years ago, I think. So, uh, yeah. But for Lyles to come, he's been struggling with that ankle injury. I don't know we still don't know what kind of great shape he's in. He still has enough time to get ready, I'd imagine. He doesn't have to worry about the US national championships. We'll see. I think Lance will have him as best as he can be. Whether that's good enough to win in Tokyo, we'll all have to wait and see. Yeah, you can't, 19.8 is not something that you would be excited about right now, but it's fine. Yeah, it's certainly fine. Yeah. You're also saying I like where he is for his first 200. Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I think actually there's nothing we can critique about Noah right now. I mean, actually, there's more praises that you can attach to Noah's performance. Right, he's been out. He pulled out since the Atlantic City games. Didn't show up for that. He had some ankle injuries at the time when he spoke to Lewis, whatever that guy's name is. I forgot his last name from NBC. He mentioned that he made it out as if it wasn't that serious, but it was more of a precautionary thing. But that's been a while and they haven't run any events. So I think it's more serious than they made it on to be. And so for him now to come back, hey, Sonia, good to see you. I'll get you on the screen in a second. For him to come back and run is good. I think the timing is not even that important. They would be happy with that. 1988 would have been good. What's more impressive is the field, right? It's the fact that you had Toboga in the race. That's the biggest thing, right? At the end of the day, when you think about the meetings in track and field, it comes down to the matchups, right? It's not only about how fast you can run. Sometimes you run really fast when no one is in the field. But it was a really strong field. You had the Olympic champion. And not only that, you had the Olympic champion, you had a guy that they don't like each other. They don't like each other. It's for sure. Let's see. Let's see. He has his way of talking about Lyles, and sometimes it looks like he's throwing shade. It's all part of the boxing match of the sport, I would imagine. And they clearly don't like each other. And then you had a couple other guys in there. Charambo was in the race. That Aganda as well. Even Jareem Richards, who ran well today in Switzerland, was in the race. So it was a competitive field. It was a decent field, but it was basically a matchup between these two guys. The world champion, the third fastest guy in history, or and so on, and against a kid that has a lot of prospects in Tobago, right? And he won. Thanks for that. I get those on the screen in a second. Yeah, Lewis Johnson. Thanks so much, Ernesto won there. Yeah. Hi, Sonia. Edwin says, was Lyles a much better 200 runner at this point? Are you trying to remember? Let me remember. No. It was quick, but I mean, let's see, ran 19.4 last year, so it's like if you're doing speed on age, I think Let's Sealy has Lyles beat on the age with the time. I think, yeah, because Let's Sealy's only 22 right now, and he ran, he's already gone some faster times. And Lyles had big performances in terms of where he was, and he's also racked up a bunch of world championship what's it called, medals, and not only medals, he's racked up he's won most of them over the how many years. And he missed out, and in Tokyo he went to Tokyo possibly as the favorite, you would have to say, and didn't win the 200 meters there, and which is kind of an interesting thing, right? So he goes to Tokyo and he picks up a bronze medal, and he does the same again last year. And it's not something. It's going to be possible that maybe Lyles will finish as one of the greatest 200-meter runners and never win the Olympic championship, right? Because he won in Doha, and he's also won in Eugene and in Budapest. So he has 3 world titles. So in terms of racking up the stuff, he has the hardware. If you're going by speed, let's see, is quicker by age. Yeah. Nevada says, "I'm like you, wasn't expecting him to win." Yeah. I didn't think so too. I think he just came out genuinely. He didn't even, he was okay. He talked about just wanting to feel the legs out, and I think quietly he has to look back and feel good about his performance. And he will say to himself, "I'm not in any shape, and I beat Let's Sealy." So that would be a little Philip in his kind of a thing. Yeah, again, yeah, that was Lewis Johnson. Nevada said Lyles knew he was in sub 20 shape. No, I think they have to know that. My suspicion is, well, I'm here wetting my computer up. Sorry, guys. My suspicion is he would not have come to the champ. He would not have gone to Monaco and face Let's see if he wasn't in the kind of shape like a sub 20 shape. I don't think he would have come. They would have found another meet. He was on camera saying that they were running out of meets to find, but that's not true. He could have gone to the Continental Tour today. If it's just about testing out his legs, he could have found some places to run. It wouldn't be a big deal if we were to show up at a Continental Tour. He knew that they were in better shape than possibly they're giving on to, and they came and they know that Tobogo is there, and he took a crack at him. I think he may have come to Monaco thinking that I may not have win. Probably, if he didn't win, it wouldn't be a big deal, right? Because what he's trying to show, what I guess the way I'm thinking about is the performance speaks volume. He comes in knowing that he's in decent shape. He can be competitive. I'm sure he didn't come in there thinking that he could beat Tobogo. I'm not sure if he knew that, but he's like, I can give him a run for his money. Even if were he not to win, he would walk away and said, "Well, I'm coming off the ankle injury, and I did what I can." But the fact that he beat him, I think that's also interesting. I think that's a bigger plus point for him. And if you put that in perspective, I think going forward, it works out for him. If anybody who lost there would be Tobogo, if you're scoring on points, but no one really scores these things on points at this stage. But if we were to do it that way, yeah. So cool. So yeah, I definitely like what I saw there. Yeah, and I'm happy about it. There was some interesting stuff happening at the Ed Murphy Classic too that didn't get a chance to talk about. But if you're from a Jamaican persuasion, there was a bunch of guys there running. Also good for. I was happy to see Britton Wilson back. She beat Leah Anderson rather from Jamaica there in the 400. But Britton, as we know, really talented. Struggled with a couple niggles here and there, but she was there and she showed up, and that was a good thing to see. I'm trying to remember. There's something else there I wanted to touch on, but I'll leave it for that right now. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think there was like a 200 meter thing there that I should put that in my notes, but it's not there right now. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, which is really interesting, is men's 800 meters. So we saw what happened there in Monaco. It was an interesting run. Not quite sure what Marco Arop was doing. It was one of the best assembled fields there over men's 800 meters, and Wanioni there, world leading performance of 141.44. And in many ways, I want to give him the championship from now, but it's hard to do that, obviously. Josh Howie there running a big PB at 42.01. There was like Sajati there, Peter Ball running era records, a Rop there in season best 142. The men's eight, Masalele was there too. He was running really well earlier this season. All the guys were there, all the important guys. Bryce Hoppel, he hasn't trended down the way yet, but men's 800 meters really, really hotting up. Interesting space, I would say, as well. But I like what I'm seeing from Wanioni. I bring it up again because we're we're at a point where we're trying to think about, the world record, right? And can it be done? And last year, in many ways, Emmanuel Wanioni was really close. He ran that Super 141 there in Nairobi in altitude. That was up there. And probably, if you were to adjust and do some calculations, it suggests that it may have been a better performance than the Rashida performance, David Rhodesia rather, performance all the way back in London in 2012. But I think it's going to come. I think we're going to see guys going to that 140 again. And I never thought we would be in that space, but Wanioni is there. I think what we're seeing is the standards have been raised. We saw it last year in the Olympics. We've never seen an Olympic final like that, and it encapsulated a moment of really true high level performances that you could run a 141 and not find your way on the podium. And I think that's where the speed is. The speed of these athletes. The men are pushing boundaries there, and I think that's going to be really, really interesting. That's one of the races of the season. I certainly think it's going to be really competitive. It's hard to call. Probably Wanioni for me with the edge, but you never count out Arap. You should never count out Sedrati. Hopper could find his way. The new kid Josh Howie here. Uh, there's a bunch of things to think about as we get into that space in September. But I wanted to touch base on that. Let me know your thoughts on that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's where we are. Yeah. Nevada says Donovan Brazier is back. Ran a sub 143.31. That's crazy, dude. Was out for about 4 years. I have him make him the US team. Yeah. Also, the Brazier guy is interesting. Donovan Brazier, as you know, former world champion, former US record holder, right? I think he was the record holder before Bryce. And when you think about him and the struggles that he encountered, it only brings a smile on your face, to be honest with you. Only you can only be happy with the performance there from Donovan Brazier, because he's been out for years. And if you watch the interviews, there are some interviews with him, some interesting interviews. And, there's a lot of times he talked about, quitting or trying to give up. It's hard to keep going. And he did. And so ran a couple of good races out there. He ran at 143.81. I think he ran another time before that. And so I think he'll make the US team. I definitely think he'll make the US team. And I think he'll do really, really well. And whatever happens, I think he just has to take it as he's back, he's competing. I don't know if he can get down to the times that would be making him competitive. Right now, you have to run 141 to be in the mix in terms of a medal. And that is a bit far off from where he was. But I think he should be good enough to make the US national team. So But it's not going to be easy though. It certainly won't be easy to make that team, but we'll see. Uh, you have to like there's a bunch of guys there that can run the 143s for the US as well. That's so I don't know. There's that kid, what's his name? That Koich kid, I think he can run fast too. But I think Brazer should be in the mix. Uh, and Howie, obviously, I think is showing the most class so far for the US athletes. So uh, we'll have to wait and see. And if Donovan Brazier is gonna make a team, which I think he can, I am getting to a point where I think I'm comfortable in saying that I am not quite sure if Athing Mu can make the team. And I just don't know how to process her performances this season. So well, there's one way to look at it. She ran much faster this week than she did last week, but she's nowhere close to looking like an athlete that can do something. And that is kind of shocking, right? So we saw her at the Ed Murphy Classic there running again, and she looked better, ran what 2 minutes and change, but nothing to speak of, right? Like nothing that would make you feel like she's gonna trend down into times that can make her competitive for the US national team. And that's a sad situation, right? So race was run by Maloney from St. Vincent and the Grenadines running a 1:58.13. I think looked better than the last time, but she ran what 2 minutes 42. So it's much better than the previous week. But can she get down to the times that would make her competitive for the team, right? Ajay Wilson's still around. There's a bunch of other US athletes there. I just don't know. And I I don't want to heap pressure on Athing in the sense that I know she can't be happy with her performances these last few years. What happened last year was inexplicable. And I'm not even thinking about more in the context of being competitive at the world championships. I mean, you're thinking about can she make a team, right? And it's really hard to know if she can do that, right? There's a bunch of US athletes that could probably run fairly decent. We can even go back to the Rose kid, Michaela Rose. She's already gone like a 1:58 this season, I think. That's a few seconds quicker than Mo. There's Addison Wiley as well, also sub 1:58. So there's a bunch of US women there, Willis, Hunter, all in the mix that can run that they're looking better than I think. And you still have Ajay Wilson and a bunch of other athletes, and who knows if Nia can do something. Nia Akins, I don't know. She's getting up there as well, but it's a kind of sad situation to see that Mo, who has the talent, it's probably all-time great talent, comes around once in a generation, just not being in the mix. And hopefully she improves. Maybe this trending down is something that would please Bobby. But as we've discussed on the live before, and other people have pointed out in the comment section, perhaps there needs to be a reevaluation of the coaching setup. Not this year, you want to finish this year, but next year for sure, right? Her former collegiate coach is in the mix. He's now in California as well, so there's a possibility you could jump and go over there if you wanted. Not quite sure if that's something that they would exercise, but it's possible that uh, she needs to change setup and try to get back to her best, because this is a woman that gave us that 154.97. When we saw her, we looked at her as one of the few athletes that could kind of push up against those world records, which are, let's be honest, not particularly the most clear cut world records on the book, but that's for a different story. But in terms of our ability to do, uh, to push that way, and I just, it's just hard to see her struggle like that. But hopefully, it's just this was second race, so maybe she'll improve. Maybe she'll drop a 158 next. But the U.S. National Championships is coming around, and I'll be honest with you that I don't think, if you're not showing up and with the capability of running a 157, I don't know if you're going to make the team, right? And you want to run a 157 to be confident that you can make the team. And can she stack these races quick succession, get to that point? She still doesn't look aggressive enough to me in over the first 400 meters. She's running the race quite nonchalantly. She's running in a way as if, she's just going out there and doing the motions. I'm not saying that's what she's doing. It just looks that way. And we hope that something changes there. Nevada says, Athing Mu, I don't have her making the team. Something is not right with her, and it's not coaching. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I don't have anything against Bobby, obviously, because I think Bobby is one of the all-time greats, and he can do it. And when he sets a project, he has things in mind. Yeah, there's something there. I don't know. The athlete has to be happy. I don't know if she must be happy. I don't want to get into that side. I think that's kind of outrageous of me to go down that road. But it's more like, you see a 154 a few years ago. You see an athlete that's still very young. And you just want, this is a 23-year-old athlete. This is an athlete that can run for another 7 years easily. Without, by the time you get to the 25, 26, you'd hope that should get to like high level, consistent there. The speed might drop off somewhat, but she should be able to push these boundaries. Ability to push boundaries. This is an athlete that can really do super stuff, right? 400 meters, 49.57. That's an athlete that you think that could go down to even a sub 49 over 400 meters. That's the kind of athlete that we're looking at. The grace, the poise, the skill level. So that's what I think above anything else, the disappointment comes in where you see an extremely talented athlete, a generational athlete. They don't come around that often, right? And when it doesn't go as smoothly as you want to see, you get some concerns. So I wish her the very best. I hope that it will trend down in terms of times. She'll show up at the U.S. National Championships and stamp her class, and we'll be like, this is as much as we know, and she's ready to shock the world again. I'm not quite sure that will happen, but we'll have to wait and see. And and that would be an interesting time. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well. I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff at the US Championships to look forward to. I was very pleased by the run from Mackenzie Long, really talented athlete, an athlete I have a lot of time for, that 21.93 there to win the to win the Ed Murphy Classic and beating a really strong field. Brittany Brown was in the field, Favor Fila, who is also moving away from Nigeria, as we know. And so I think it's a really, good stuff to look forward to there. Really, really good stuff to look forward to. Mackenzie Long, we'll see Abby, we'll see a lot of interesting things with the US national team. And I don't know how to call it yet. We'll have to wait there. But I like what I'm seeing from Mackenzie, to be honest with you. I think that's a really good space for her. Really talented athlete. We all know her story if you don't remember from last year, and I think she'll do some really cool things. I hope at the US National Championships. That's coming up. Yeah, cool. But yeah, most of the stuff I wanted to touch on was that Galt running well last week as well. We saw that really some interesting performances there over track and field. Yeah, appreciate everybody jumping on. Obviously, it's always cool to have you on the channel. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Let's talk a little bit about Megan Tapa. She's been getting a lot of attention recently, and rightly so, because Megan has been, she showed up. I think the thing that I want to talk about Megan the most is the fact that she told us that she was going to do this, and she actually delivered. And the reason why I say that is, if you recall, Megan goes to she was supposed to run at the Racers Grand Prix, and she pulled out of it. And I think she got some flack on the internet for that. And you hope athletes don't pay attention to that stuff, but they're only human, so they'll see what's going on. And she decided against running, and she gave what I thought was a really detailed answer, to say that every year they're trying to put things together. You show up and you show up tired, or you show up a little bit injured, and you didn't want that to happen, right? And she pretty much decided that that wasn't the way it's gonna be, right? And she came to the Jamaica National Championships fresh, and she won. And then she gets on the road in what is the most competitive event in track and field, and she won again in Monaco, right? That's a big, big run for her, and you cannot underscore how important that is for her. So she equals her time there of what, 12:34 that she ran in Jamaica, and she ran 12:34 in Monaco into a minus 1.1 win. That's a really, really big run for her. And it shows there's consistency, winning on the big stage, winning against top class athletes. It's not like the field wasn't competitive. Be honest with you, I didn't think I didn't have her winning, if I'm being honest with you. I thought Grace Stark was going to walk away with it. Stark in the end didn't look so good running a 12:64, but it had Kambunji in the race, who is also sneakingly working her way up to a decent season, running a 12:43. There's Vessa, Masai Russell was there too. Aaliyah Armstrong, Devon Charlton was in the mix. It was a really, really competitive field of high quality women. And that's what you get every time the hurdles are on display. It's always top class running. And for her to come there and destroy them, hurdling technique looked really good. I think she's setting herself up for a spectacular season. In ordinary times, you would have to say she's a sure shot for a medal. But we cannot say these things when it comes to the hurdles. We cannot give out the medals to anybody. It's just too difficult to do. It's a really, really competitive space. But she looks good. To run these times at this point, the 12:3s, one into a serious headwind. And hurdlers don't like that stuff either. They don't like a lot of positive wind either. They would prefer for it to be flat, but to be still rather. Yeah, you have to like what you see there. her entering into the World Championships, run some races, pull back, and be fresh. Because we'll repeat, and I've been repeating this, she has to be one of the most unlucky athletes in track and field. Twice at the World Championships, not making it into a final with some of the fastest times you've ever seen, not to qualify. Athletes don't have to worry about that this year. It's a 9-lane final in Tokyo. You finish in the top 3 in your semifinal, you get into the final. So that's what they'll be working on. But you have to count amongst all the good athletes this season and say that Megan Tapper is in the mix and in a serious contention mix, right? I like what I saw a few weeks ago from Toby Amerson. She's looking good. Masai looked really good earlier this season. Had a little bit of some niggles there. Has to work her way onto that team. It's not going to be easy. The same for Tia Jones, who was running really well earlier. Alicia Johnson coming back with a bang too. So the U.S. women are really stacked. For my money, I thought going through the season, Grace Stark looks the best of everybody. But that's one of those things. You know, there'll be an Akira Nugent. You know, it's going to be tough. But you have to like the chances of a Megan Tapper to do something. If she can get it right, if she can come to the championships fresh, execute well, you never know, right? I think we'll end up in a situation, and even Kenny Harrison's still in the mix. I should shout her out all the time. We'll get to the championships where, you know, 12-2 may not get you on the podium. And that is really ridiculous. But that's possible. You could probably run a 12-25, 12-26 and just don't make the podium. And that's how competitive the space is. But I wanted to give her props because I think they're managing the season well and they're doing really right things to set themselves up for what surely should be some interesting things. London Diamond League this week. It should be interesting. It's a packed crowd, 60,000 seats sold there. They always do fabulous job in London in terms of getting things right. And the entry lists are there. Lyles will be there. Sifan Hassan, you know, Yaroslavla Manuchik, who hasn't been having the most dominant of season. Yaroslava, this is lost a few times to Olislagas and so on. But Julian Alfred will be there as well. It's going to be really, really interesting. I haven't seen Sifan in a while, so we'll see what Sifan Hassan will do. She's interesting. I think she might run marathon this year as well in the World Championships. But separate and aside from what we expect in London, the big situation there is for the Jamaican national team to qualify for the 4x1. Can we do it? Can it be done? It should. You should see. It should be the case that they can easily run, I would say, a 37.8 if they can get those baton exchanges on a comfortable level. When you look at the leg speed and the athletes that say they're showing up, if they don't run sub 38, then lots of questions to be asked. So 38.20 is the magic number, I believe. I suspect that what you want to do if you're Jamaica is you just want to get the baton around. Don't muck around. Don't mess around. With the kind of speed that those guys have, and I would say conservative passes, so early in the zone, relatively early in the zone, stick around. That's 37.8 for me. 37.85, 9. You get a bit more fancy with the passing, crisper passing, and this is a team that should be able to drop you a 37.5-4, 37.4 or 5. The key is not to rush it. the key is to make sure you get it around and run well. And I think they'll qualify because this team has the ability to win the gold medal in Tokyo. Obviously, the US will have their say. South Africa they are looking well as well. You can never count out the Japanese. They're going to be on home soil. They're going to have some perfect exchanges. They'll be in the mix. Canada are always around. But when you look at the leg speed of the Jamaicans this year, Kishane Thompson, Akeem Blake, Oblique Seville, you add in a Brian Level, you add in some other guys there. They're making up a formidable set of guys that should be able to deliver championship performances. You have to get to the championship, so hopefully they do that. If they mess around, then lots of questions need to be asked there, but it should be good. When you get to Oblique Seville running the flat, let's see Litoboga. We'll be seeing Akini Simbini's back in action again. I like this. Simbini started off the season really well, over 100 meters. He was undefeated, backed away. Hadn't seen him in a little while. Now he's back. That 100 meters should look good. Lyles in the mix as well. Tobogo, Oblique Seville, Akeem Blake, Azu, the kid that popped up and won the indoor championships this season. All of that stuff. It should be a really, really good run there. London Diamond League setting up to be some fabulous stuff. Field events as well. And women's shot put I think has been the best so far this season. The long jump is also hotting up for women, as we saw in Monaco and in Prefontaine as well, where that Mihambo there passing on our final jump and Davis Woodall beating her there. No Davis Woodall here in London coming up, but Mihambo is there. Jasmine Sawyers, Yapachino in the mix, Claire Bryant, who world champion this year indoor. So good stuff to look forward to. Yeah. Anyway. All right. I think I'm gonna call it, guys. Nothing else coming through on the comment section. I appreciate everybody in the mix sticking around and talking. I'll try to be back. As I said, I won't be back for the watch along this week. Unfortunately, I can't get to the London. Oh yeah, is it a 2-day meet? No, I think it's just on a 1 day, right? Yeah, it's just on Friday. Yeah, at least it could be 2 days. I think, but I haven't checked. But the main event stuff are all on Saturday. Sorry, yeah, everything is on Saturday. Yeah, I don't think there is it's a 1 day this year. I think, yeah. Relays and everything in the mix as well. So, yeah. And I think the relays are happening earlier in the day. So I think if you're Eastern time, it's like 8 something in the morning. Yeah, and so I'll try to, if anything, I'll try to come onto my phone if anything spectacular happens. But I'll definitely follow and watch it. But I'm not going to be around for the live itself. Yeah. But it should be good. Yeah. So I'll probably see you guys later on in the week. I'll probably be back, drop a few stuff. I want to talk some cricket. I know most of you here are maybe not be interested in cricket, so I might do a cricket thing soon. And but it's been good. Thanks for all of you guys for hanging out, and I'll call it a night unless there are more comments. But if not, you guys have a great rest of your day, and hopefully have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.